Good evening, everyone.
Green light, give us all you can.
Good evening, everyone. The Red Bull Ring is one of those scenic race circuits. Situated near the Alpine Mountains, the Red Bull Ring has a fantastic heritage when it comes to natural landscapes and beautiful scenery, as we can see on the exit of turn number 3. However, you might not be aware that it is actually not only a beautiful place, but it actually sits within a natural sound bowl. If you don't know what I mean by this, is that if you ever get the chance to go to the Red Bull Ring, because of the way that the circuit has been built, it actually amplifies the sound of the engines that roar around. So if you're one of the lucky spectators who get to watch any motor racing go on around here, your sounds are turned up just that little bit louder thanks to the natural amphitheatre of it all. And the other element of it as well is that, again, you might not be aware, but because of how beautiful this location is, it's actually well known to be shot for European car commercials that are then distributed all around the world. Think Audi, think BMW, think Skoda, think any brand that you can imagine that's distinctly European. I guarantee that they'll have had some form of car advert published around here. But the only advertisement that is going on tonight is the driver's skill and abilities, because it's round number 8 of the Season 12 GT3 Challenge Series here with ACC Race Nation. I'm Jack Millington. I'm back this week. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be commentating, as always, on this spectacular championship, and Season 12 is proving to be a treat so far. We're qualifying currently underway at the moment, this 10-corner racetrack, which will deliver some very close and competitive action, not just through qualifying, but it is one of those race circuits where you can have a lunge and an overtake. We've seen it before in this series. We're going to see it again tonight, I'm sure. If you're new to the channel, do of course give us a follow. It'd be fabulous if you could. If you're watching via YouTube, I just recently hit 100 subscribers, which to me is a massive goal in truth, so thank you to everybody who has subscribed via YouTube. But we are underway here in the Styrian Mountains. What a place, what a track, what a situation to be in here for this wonderful event that we've got going on tonight. Now, I'm going to ride on board with someone shortly. We'll have a look at who's coming across the line. Rover Rakitamanga being one of those, but he's just gone over the start-finish line. We don't want to be quite at that point just yet. So let's have a scroll through the field. Mike Keaton on circuit. Dan Hatton. I normally go on with Dan, so I'm not going to pick Dan today. I'm looking to see where Danny Felix is, if we can get to him in time. We can't, so we will try and look to find. It's like, there we go, we've got Jeffrey Van Buren who we can ride on board with. So let's go around this racetrack then as we go and start on our first flying lap. 2.68 miles to navigate, and Van Buren's got to get it braking quickly down into turn 1. Sharp right-hander, which he's navigated relatively well there, no issues whatsoever. We blast now up through the hill. Quite a steep hill, this one. It's kind of elevated in the game, but in real life it's massive. Turn 2 is a blink of an eye. Into turn 3, another heavy braking zone, a 90-degree right-hander, and Jeffrey Van Buren clips the curb on the inside. That's unsettled the car, and look at the time he's lost in the top left corner. It's almost a tenth of a second. He's got to get rid of that from his brain and go into turn number 4 for Roush. Spot your braking zone just at the 100-metre marker. Get it turned in as early as you possibly can on the power. Nice and early, but Van Buren runs it a bit too deep, and I worry that might be invalidated. Turn 5 and then into turn 6, the left-hander, a long sweeping left-handed corner. Van Buren running a little bit wide there, but we've still got 4 corners to go. Turn 7, if you can get the car dialed in nice and early, you can remove the understeer, but you can see that Ferrari is living with quite a lot of front end. Turn 8, non-existent in the dry, don't have to worry about it, but into the rink curve at turn number 9, Austria's first ever Formula 1 world champion at turn 9, and then into the final corner of turn 10, and it's as quick as you like for a track that's just under 3 miles long. And Van Buren goes a little bit slower on that lap, but he's the third on the grid at the minute, so plenty of time on this track to try and improve on. But let's go back to the pits and have a look. It's one of the championship protagonists. It's Dan Hatton at the front of the field. He is loving life at the minute. Is Dan in that Mustang? He won last time out as well. Let's not forget the unofficial broadcasted round, which didn't happen in the end, unfortunately. I was away on holiday, so we didn't get the chance to see Dan's victory at Zandvoort, but nevertheless he's still running ballast. But this is a great circuit to run ballast at for him, and he's currently just under 2 tenths clear of Rover Akatamanga, who improved on his best ever finishing position last week. He finished second at Zolder. He's second on the grid at the minute. Can he get, dare I say it, that first race win with ACC Race Nation? We'll have to wait and see if he can do. Van Buren is third. It's Bent Biro, the Hungarian, in 4th place, which is not too far away from where we are right now in the Styrian Mountains. Dennis Penders is in 5th position. Again, having another solid season is Dennis. Can he get another 5th place tonight? He's had one already this season, back at the 2-hour race that we did at Spa. Then it's Davies Altenbayer in 6th position. It's Jordan Harding in 7th place, who's having a solid season as well. Danny Felix is really good to see him as high up as he is in 8th place for qualifying. He'll be really encouraged by that. Ross Harris is in 9th place and at the side of the road. Then it's Matt Phillips in 10th place. Mark Laszlo is outside the top 10 at the moment, but only by, I'm going to call that, milliseconds between himself and Phillips in 10th and 11th. It's then Joel Van Beek in 12th place, who's decided to switch up his colour scheme. He's got the 333 Ferrari, and he's gone for a pink and green livery, almost. I was almost going to say inspired by the Joker, but I'm going to say old school Incredible Hulk. Let's go that way. Joe Warner's in the pits. He's 13th. He's the last of the drivers to have set a lap time. Danny's Altenbayer hasn't set one. Mikey Keating is out on circuit in the Huracan, and then Liam Watkinson as well, who's feeling quite buoyed by his chances tonight. He's looked quite competitive in practice, so he's hoping to maintain this form and this advantage that he has over any other Porsche in the field, because he is the only Porsche in the field. And there he goes, up to the 7th row of the grid with a time that is just over 2 seconds off Dan Hatton, so a 1:30.6 for the Porsche GT3 driver. Let's get back out there and see who's circulating. Dennis Penders is out there on track in the 103, as is Davies Altenbayer, who is looking to move himself into the top 10 of the drivers' standings. Is Davies 13th at the moment on 94 points, but I think there's more to come from Davies. He's not had that electric result that he's typically gets once a season, and I'm expecting that could be tonight. We've got a reduced grid compared to normal, and we normally have over 20 drivers, but tonight we've got 16, so a glorious chance for Davey to put himself into the top 10. Liam Watkinson back in the pits. Matt Phillips coming out now, just coming up to halfway point of our qualifying session. Danny Felix in the pits. This is Joe Warner. There's Jordan Harding in 7th place, the only Honda driver in the field as far as we are aware, and he's had a good time of it this season, I think, as Jordan. I know that he has explained before how frustrated he gets with the NSX compared to other cars, but he's proving so far to be exceptionally competitive. Only twice has he finished outside of the top 10 this season in the number 16, and one of those occasions was when he got punted off at round 3. So Jordan's doing all right in that car. I'm not quite sure about its handling characteristics, whether this is the right track for the NSX. I'm not 100% certain with the way its MR layout is, but we'll have to find out during the course of qualifying. Raketman in 3rd place, so we've had a change at the front row, and it's Jeffrey Van Buren who slipped into 2nd place. And what a glorious opportunity this is for the man who's in front of Van Buren on circuit, figuratively and literally in the qualifying standings, because Dan Hatton sits 3rd in the driver's standings at the moment. He has missed 2 rounds this season, so he was already on the back foot. But a couple of weeks ago, you might remember at round 6, he had a couple of issues that day, ended up finishing down in 17th, and he lost the championship lead. But Will Fielden and Stuart Packham are not here tonight. As far as I'm aware, they're not going to be racing, nor is Mark Chapman for that matter. So this is a great chance for Dan Hatton to stake his claim back at the front of the championship standings. Can he pull it off? Well, we've still got 8 and a bit minutes remaining in qualifying, so we'll have to see if he can overcome that part of it. And also, just to make a note that if I just look at the drivers who are in the top 10 in the drivers' standings at the moment, Will Fielden leads the way on 153 points, isn't racing this evening. Stuart Packham, who's on 143 points, isn't racing this evening. It's the first time he's missed a race all season long in season 12. Dan Hatton, he's on 140 points at the moment, just 13 behind Will Fielden. So even if he finishes in last place tonight, he will become the new championship leader. So Dan's got a great opportunity to push that advantage on even further. Mark Chapman, he's 4th on 133. He's not racing either. Hartle Toby, who's 5th in the driver's standings on 124, he isn't racing this evening either. So that brings us to Rover Raketamange in 6th place, the Frenchman on 122 points. He's here tonight. He's got a good chance to bring himself maybe into championship contention. Jordan Harding, on who's 1 point back from Rover, he's in tonight, as is Dennis Penders on who's 116. Simon Whiting, who's on 113 points, he isn't racing tonight. And Bence Biro, who is here in 10th place, he is racing this evening. Now, Bence has done a great job in qualifying so far. He's 5th at the minute. His best race result was the first round of the championship back at Monza, where he finished 6th place that day. So Bence has got a great chance to improve upon that. As wow, look at this. We got pole a couple of weeks ago to Danny Zoutenbayer, and there he is. Once more, the season 10 champion has found a groove and found a rhythm to put himself on provisional pole for the time being, and that is very aptly timed actually for Danny Zoutenbayer, because last 2 races, 2 5th places. He's been back in that Ferrari that he's familiar with, he's comfortable with. He was previously racing in the Mercedes AMG, but that partnership didn't work out for him. Since he swapped to the Ferrari, he's looked much more back in his comfort zone, scoring those 2 5th places in the last 2 races. So Danny on form. And look at this. Well, just as I was about to praise Danny even further, talk about a driver who, off the top of my head, from all commentary that I've ever done in ACC Race Nation, he's never had a pole position. That is not a car I would have expected to have planted itself on the front row of the grid with 6 minutes to go, let alone provisional pole. That is a stonking effort from Jordan in the NSX. I have never commentated on Jordan getting a victory in ACC Race Nation. I've never seen it. That could be an unbelievable qualifying lap from him. There might be no more time to come, but right now, this, I did say earlier, was going to be a competitive qualifying, and the top 13 drivers are within a second of pole. Don't count any of them out for a race victory. And there we go. It's changed again at the top. Dan Hatton now has just taken over provisional pole. 1200ths clear. Jeffrey Van Buren next to respond. Can't beat that lap time. Dennis Penders, the Belgian who's been driving brilliantly over the last few seasons. The benchmark that I put for everybody doesn't go any faster there. Liam Watkinson said he was feeling more confident than what he's done previously, and he gets himself to within 1.6 of provisional pole. That's his closest qualifying gap that he's had all season long. The number 70, that is a really strong effort from Liam. Can he get himself closer at all? That's the key, because he's separated himself out from Joe Warner and Mikey, who will be having their exclusive battle over the last row of the grid. But can Liam do something here in that Porsche? There's always been a decent car around here, and has that 992. It's always been pretty solid in this championship for various reasons. But the weight distribution of the car suits it very nicely for the undulating corners that we have here at the Red Bull Ring. So maybe Liam is leaning into that a little bit more. It's really nice to see that gap for him close down further. Dan Hatton's still circulating. Can he push that provisional pole time further away from the rest of the field? Not on that lap. He can't. But Van Buren might be the next to do so. He comes out of the final corner. And can Van Buren respond to the top three? Not yet. He continues on. He's got 3 minutes and 40 seconds to get another lap time in. Mark Laszlo, good qualifying for him so far. He's still in 12th position. Dennis Penders doesn't improve either. We've still got drivers circulating around the track. I'm waiting to see what this man can do in the number 14. Hello to everybody in the chat so far. Good to see you, Danny. Hope you're doing all right there. Howard Dunn as well. Good to see you, Howard. Thank you for the kind comments. And Jordan Harding's responded. A 128.2. As his fellow stablemate Mikey Keaton goes off the road. But that is 2 tenths, and that's quite a big margin to try and pull back from anybody. Can Rover Rakatamanga do anything about that, though? Here he comes towards the line. No improvement from him then. Danny Zoutenbayer looking for a second pole position this season in the Dayglow Yellow Ferrari. Hasn't found it just yet. What about the 333 of Joel Van Beek? He's doing a good effort, though. I've got to say, really good times from Joel. Davey Zoutenbayer, what can he do? No improvement there. Mikey's just been off the track, so I won't cut to him. It points us back then to Dan Hatton, who had a little bit of a tighter line coming out of the final corner. I'm just wondering if he was building up to this lap now, which he could be. Van Buren comes across the line, no improvement there. So we look towards Mark Laszlo, who's just a second outside of pole. Can't find more time yet, but drivers are now starting to come out of the pits. So I feel like these guys who are in at the minute, Liam Watkinson, Joe Warner, Mikey Keating, I don't think they're going to go any faster. I think they're done for the qualifying, and I think Dan Hatton is done. I think that's it. So one of the championship protagonists, he is into the pit lane. There's going to be no more lap times coming from him. He can't get out now and get out on track. Mikey's trying to. It's a valiant effort, Mikey, but I don't think he's going to make it unless he manages to cut out the entirety of Spielberg. But you never know. Man can dream. 1 minute and 21 seconds to go in qualifying then, and it's up to the drivers that are out there to topple the Honda NSX. First of all, Danny Zoutenbayer is going to get one more lap after the one he's on currently. No improvement from him. Where are we looking to next? It's Davey Zoutenbayer. Oh! Well, it would have been Davey Zoutenbayer, but he's just hit the wall at the final corner. So that is it. Done for Davey. I think he went all by himself. Joel Van Beek was in close proximity, but I don't think there was any contact between the two from what I saw. Van Buren, he'll have one more lap after this one. No improvement from him. Rakatamanga, no improvement there. It's all happening in the last minute of qualifying. Mark Laszlo, no further improvement. Ross Harris is just outside a second by 2 thousandths, actually. So he's got one more lap. But Jordan Harding must be rubbing his hands together. He must be thinking, how am I in P1? Here he comes towards the line. Can't push that time on further, but he does have this final lap. Now, we do have Mikey in 16th place. He's going to be the first driver to sadly see the checkered flag, in my opinion. I don't think he's gonna make it. He's got 6 seconds to go before he gets to... Well, he's at Rint now, and he's not going to make it. So that's unfortunate for Mikey. He's not going to make it. He'll have to circulate around. Ooh, as he nearly loses the back end. But qualifying is finished. Danny Zoutenbayer has just spun on the exit of turn number 7. So that's his qualifying over. No chance of an improvement. Joel Van Beek on for his best qualifying so far. I've just noticed, by the way, Jamie Lee has just sneaked into qualifying just at the end of the session. So he's going to start on the back row of the grid by himself. But Van Beek, no improvement. Van Buren, this is it then for qualifying. Can he get himself to the front row? He needs effectively a tenth and a half plus a little bit extra. Can he get there? Towards the line he comes, and there's no improvement. He sits in 4th place. That's as high as he's going to get. Mark Laszlo then towards the start-finish line. Can he get into the top 10? Yes, he can, with a brilliant effort to go up into 7th place. Ross Harris is done, and Jordan Harding is bailing into the pits, and he's got his first pole position that I've ever seen in ACC Race Nation. What a lap time from the number 16. That is a brilliant lap to get pole here for the 8th round of the season. He's 2 tenths clear of the championship protagonist that is Dan Hatton. It's Danny Zoutenbayer and Jeffrey Van Buren, the 2 Ferrari 296s, on row number 2. Rover Rakatamanga and Dennis Penders are on row 3. Mark Laszlo with that blast of a lap time on the last lap on the 4th row alongside Bence Biro. Good effort from the number 8 McLaren. Davey Zoutenbayer and Joel Van Beek round out the top 10. Then it's Danny Felix and Ross Harris on row number 6 with Matt Phillips and Liam Watkinson on row 7. Joe Warner and Mikey Keating are on row number 8. And as I said before, Jamie Lee just snuck in the McLaren in the last seconds of qualifying. So his McLaren garage have managed to turn that car around following on from some logistical issues, let's call them. And they've been able to get him on the grid for tonight's 1 hour race that's coming up in just a moment's time. But great lap. Really great lap from Jordan. And Danny even agreeing there in the comments saying, well done. Everybody's saying, actually, Jordan getting a lot of respect there because he is quite popular. Danny Zoutenbayer was saying before the race started he was having some feedback issues. But he's managed to get P3 despite the feedback problem. So well done to Danny Zoutenbayer there. Jordan has just said to everybody he has no idea where that lap's come from. And yeah, Jordan also giving us some comments there about the careful practice he needs to take going into some of the corners at this circuit. I'm not going to say it out loud. I don't want to give any listeners any sort of advantage. I know some of the drivers do like to listen to the streams, which is very kind. Very kind, gets me view count up. But we are due to start in 80 seconds time. I'm going to give myself a breather for just a minute, get some water, and then we'll be back ready for the 1 hour of racing action just a few moments time.
Seconds. 20 seconds. 10 seconds.
Well, we're just seconds away from the race start here at Spielberg. And the formation lap begins in earnest once those red lights flash over for us, which they have not done, but they will have done on the driver's screen, but whatever visual glitch we are having. But at least it's a visual glitch and not a start line problem. We have had that before through no fault of the league organisation. I think is that Jamie Lee stuck on the grid there in 7th? No, he's just got underway now, so he's going to have to catch the back of the pack there, the number 43. I think it's my first time commentating on Jamie Lee. I believe he's new to the championship for this season, but he did race last week, so that's the reason why I've not commented on him before. He finished in 16th place last week, did Jamie, so hopefully on his second outing he'll be able to string a couple of laps together and get right in the mix with everybody. He did finish in front of Mikey, Joe Warner and Liam Watkinson last week, so I think there's a possibility of a good result there for the British driver, the number 43. So let's see how he navigates, and he's up to the back of Mikey now, so he's not going to get sent to the pit lane, which can happen if you drop too far behind. Now, Dan Hatton nearly runs into the back of Jordan. Ghosting is on at the moment during the formation lap. If you're not sure how ACC works with the settings that we have, on the formation lap the cars ghost effectively right up until the start of the 1 hour event. That's just to mitigate any racing incidents that happen in the formation lap. Not that it would typically happen, but in that instance it could. So that's why we do have that. It is important for the drivers to have. If we don't, then imagine Dan Hatton taking out Jordan Harden on the formation lap. We wouldn't ever hear the end of it. But we are coming up towards the exit of turn 8, so we are about to get racing here for 60 minutes of action. A mandatory pit stop involved in all of that as well, and Dan Hatton has already playing the mind games, I think, by jumping in front of Jordan. But I wonder if Jordan is also playing his own little mind games by just sitting behind him, just to mess with his mind a little bit. Don't rule that out. These drivers, they play the game. They know exactly what they are doing. But we are coming around the final sequence of corners. Who will make the best start from the front? Towards the start-finish line we go then. An hour. And the race is live here at the Red Bull Ring, and Dan Hatton has jumped Jordan before we get to turn number 1. It looked like a good launch for the Mustang. Down through the gears they go. And Van Buren almost hitting the back of Harding, but what a launch off turn 1 for the NSX. He moves back into the lead of the race as here we go towards that turn number 2 that doesn't exist. Danny Zoutenbayer trying to find a way past the Mustang as we blast into turn number 3. I say it doesn't exist. Turn 2 does exist. It just doesn't exist in the dry. But Hatton has not managed to consolidate that lead. What a drive around the outside of turn 1 from Harding to strike back. Joel Van Beek's had a good start. He's in the mix with the top 8. Jeffrey Van Buren's gone backwards. That was all because of his mistake at turn 1. He lost all that momentum, dropped further down the field. But here comes the Dutchman back on the inside of Van Beek at turn 4. He makes that move stick. That was Rover Rakitamanga in front of us running wide as Martin Laszlo moves up to 5th. That's a great move and a great start for the green and red McLaren. Danny Felix is going to run wide at turn 6. He's lucky that Ross Harris is a little bit further back at this start, otherwise he would have lost the place. But what a great opening lap that was then. We've got Jamie Lee at the back in number 43 at turn number 7. There's a gap between the field. There's been some form of incident. There's Ben Spiro, then there's Liam Watkinson, and then it's Jamie Lee. So I don't quite know what incident has happened there. Matt Phillips is down there as well, as is Joe and Mikey. So we'll have to find out later on what happened to those guys. It doesn't look as if there's damage on either of those two cars. I'm just looking at Joe Warner and Mikey, but we'll have to scan our way back through that in a moment. But Jordan Harden leads the way. Dan Hutton is in second place, and look who's under pressure here. Dennis Penders, who had a great start now, has Mark Laszlo right with him, and Rover Rakitamanga, and Mark Laszlo clatters into the side of Penders, who smashes into the wall. And what was a really good start, unfortunately the Ferrari's going to have some damage as Penders tries to get back on track. It did look as if Laszlo moved over to the left on Penders. It can happen at that corner because it is quite natural, but I'm sure the stewards will want to have a word. I'm hoping for Penders' sake that because that's quite a slow corner, that the damage is something that he can carry for a few laps. We'll have to wait and see. But Laszlo, though, nevertheless, he's in fourth place at the minute, and he's had a great start. Let's brush over what's just happened from him in the number 8. He's having a good competitive race here at the Red Bull Ring, but that incident has separated out the front 3 and the rest of the field, and I know that the Frenchman right behind him of Rakitamanga will be trying to find a way through. He will want to get that done quickly because he was looking quick in practice. Van Buren is on the wrong side as well of that split. Then it's Van Beek, then it's Davies Altenbayer, Felix, Harris, Biro, then it's Liam Watkinson, who's just sticking onto the tail end of that group. Penders has carried on, which makes you think that he's got a bit of damage, but he might have just gotten away with the worst of it. We'll see if he can live with it for a few laps, but let's get onto some of our externally internal cameras, we shall call them. Externally internal, because you can't get these in real life unless you touch the massive GoPro on the rear spoilers, which wouldn't be very aesthetically pleasing. Danny Felix then going a bit wide through turn number 3 and then having a bit of a kick of oversteer, but Biro trying to find a way past. Biro running a new colour scheme and trying to go around the outside of Harris at turn 4, but the British driver fends that off. But he's left the door open for Biro to try and sneak away through at turn 6 at the left-hander, and he brakes a little bit later, does the Hungarian on the curb, and he goes through. Lovely move that from the number 96, and he moves into the top 10. So Bentz, after an unfortunate run of form actually, where he had a retirement back at round 6 and then 12th place last week, in the top 10 in these opening 5 minutes. I'm sure he'll be pleased with that. But at the front, it's looking a three-way fight for the race lead at the minute. Mark Laszlo's dropped to 4.2 seconds away, so this is already looking like a race-busting move from those three at the front. Unless Van Buren or Rakitamanga can find a way through. Don't rule out Van Beek either, but you know, for Van Beek, this is uncharted territory. He's got, though, Davies Altenbayer in Czech territory that he doesn't want him to be in, into turn 3. Van Beek gives him loads of room, goes off the road, actually. And I think Davey didn't take advantage of that in the way that I thought. But Van Beek, he's had 2 retirements this season. But tonight, looking exceptionally competitive in these early opening exchanges. And Davies Altenbayer will be thinking to himself, how do I find my way through this order? Is this the day for me to sneak a surprise result? Then it's Felix, then it's Biro, then it's Harris, and Liam Watkinson, who has got damage at the back of that car. I wonder if there was a little incident between himself and Matt Phillips. I'm just wondering whether that's gone on during the course of the race. There's Dennis Penders in 13th position. He is catching the group in front of him, though, so that damage might not be too bad for the 103. Still battles happening all over the circuit. We'll go back to the race start in just a moment. We'll just have a look at that incident between Penders and Laszlo. Hatton looking like he's got an opportunity into turn 3. That's the closest we've seen him to the back of the NSX. You feel that the Mustang is, I've said this so many times during the course of the season, but it does have that straight line advantage over the cars in its class. And it's crucial for Harding to make sure that he retains position in front of the Ford. It's a little bit different if Zoutenbayer undercuts them, because the NSX is a faster car in the straights than the Ferrari, and Danny will have to get creative if he found a way to undercut those two later on. But again, it's all tactics. We're all settling into this race. Mark Laszlo, well, he's not fourth. Now, what has happened to Mark Laszlo? Because Rover Rakatamanga now is into position in fourth place. So Mark Laszlo's dropped to 8th place. I wonder what's gone on there with the number 8. And he does have Danny Felix just behind him. These guys all fighting over 4th place. Now for Rover Rakatamanga, he'll be delighted with that, because what that means for him now is that he can try and extend this group and push it out. You can see the Frenchman, so many little inputs and corrections on the steering wheel there. But Joel Van Beek, is he looking at a move on Van Buren? I think he is. So Van Beek to the outside at turn 3. He's going to go over the curves. Can he get the car slowed down? He can. Now can he look to do the undercut on the exit of turn 4? He could do. As they approach turn 4, I should say. He's on the inside line. He's going to have to get a little bit brave here into this next corner. On the brakes, down through the gears they go. And the pink car is going to have a little nudge on the way through. And Van Beek is up to 5th, and you have to say, he was there at the corner. He had the apex first. Van Buren not giving this up on the outside of turn 6, but I don't think he's going to find a way through there. And he had a... Oh, I was going to say Van Buren had a big slide through turn 6, but Van Beek had a big moment in the gravel. And those two have fought so much. We actually are going to have to try and cut back to the fight. Here we go. Literally on board with Van Beek as Van Buren looks to the inside at turn 9. I don't think that's going to be... Realistically, that's not going to be an overtaking manoeuvre. Oh, but Van Beek gets that wrong at the final corner. And that is the door open for Jeffrey Van Buren to move back into 5th place. And Davy Zoutenbayer just stalking these two. But they've lost 2 seconds to the man trying to catch up to the leading trio now. But Van Beek, this is the first time we've seen him in the mix at the front. And he knows how to get his elbows out. Well, Van Buren actually running a little bit deep at 3. Howard Dunn saying go for the outside on turn 9 and 10. You would have to be committed to the asylum if you tried that one, as Davy Zoutenbayer looks to the inside at 4. Ooh, Van Beek running over into that gravel again. And what you've got to be careful with in this game as well is that, as Zoutenbayer looks even closer to the rear spoiler of that Ferrari, what you have to be... Oh, was that Danny Felix? What? Very wide from Danny Felix. And I think Bence Biro's got through. Let's have a look as they go through turn 7. Yes, he's there. So the Hungarian makes up another space. And Danny Felix was so wide at turn 6, I thought he was ending up in Vienna. Now, at the front, 29.3s effectively from the front two, a 29.2 from Zoutenbayer, and a 29.3 from Rakatamanga. So, as I said before, Rakatamanga's going to have to try and do something tactically here to close the gap on these 3. He's lapping at about the same speed as the leading... I was going to say the leading trio, but Zoutenbayer has just fell outside of 2 seconds, so... He's still in the mix if he does the undercut. He definitely can't be excluded. How we're talking about last season. Well, we do remember that. We do remember that you had to go away for a while after that. We won't say where, but it reminds me of Jord Door. Which I'm quite pleased with that rhyme. But, nevertheless, back onto the action. So, Jeffrey Van Buren has fallen down to 9th place. Now, we are going to go to the replay. So let's have a look. Let's go back through where we were earlier on in this race then. So let's cut forward and let's go on to, first of all, the viewpoint of Dennis Penders. And then just a little tag and round he goes. He kind of got away with that, to be honest. It could have been a lot worse, but let's just go right the way back. Does he move across? No, he actually tries to move out of the way. So I think, unfortunately for Laszlo, that might be a bit of a slam dunk for him on that incident. Now, because it's in order, we'll be able to see the next laps in terms of what happened to Mark Laszlo, because he was running quite well, and then all of a sudden he was no longer where he was supposed to be. Oh. Goes to another gear. And then there's no gears. That's very peculiar. I've never seen that before. I'd lost a couple of gears and then found them all again. Alright, well that was a shame. And then we had Jeffrey Van Buren. So what happened to him? He was fighting with Joel Van Beek. Just hope there's been no contact. Oh, and there was. So Van Buren braked really late. Wow. Yeah, that isn't going to fly, unfortunately. I think the stewards will be assigning a penalty. But Van Buren was exceptionally late on the brakes going into turn 3 anyway. He misses the apex by a mile, and Van Beek just follows him through. And that's a case of car watching. That does happen sometimes when you're following other drivers. You start following their braking points and where they end up, and you can get suckered into a mistake like that. And unfortunately for Van Beek, that's what happened at the expense of Van Buren. So that is a shame, but that explains why Van Buren and Van Beek have dropped down and why Danny Felix is running in 7th place. Goodness me. Danny Felix. Well, we talked about him getting his first top 10 at Spa 3 races ago in quite a long time. We're talking about him running in 7th place. I said this would be the race where things could happen. Dennis Penders is still doing a solid job. And Mark Laszlo's dropped further down. I wonder if he's having some technical issues, because if that is the case, it's such a shame. Because this has been definitely Mark's best race for a while. And it just looks like something's happened whilst he was running in 4th place. But Laszlo and Penders get to renew their vows. They weren't happy ones in the first place after their incident on lap 1 or lap 2. Look at Penders, and Penders is looking to go through, and I think Laszlo will let that go. He does. So Laszlo lets it go, and Penders moves up into 11th place. Because of the way that this race has worked out, you know, I think Joe Warner's just gone off the road at turn 6. He has, and Mikey Keaton moves past him in the battle for 17th place. But I was about to say that Penders is crossing the line now, and you've got Davy Zoutenbayer in 5th, and he's not that far away. If he gets his damage fixed, Penders is looking quite quick here, even with the issues that he's having. But unfortunately, for everybody else, they can't get on terms with the front 3. Rover Akatamanga is 6 now, nearly 6 seconds away. Is that looking like a move between Felix and Van Beek? Danny Felix up into 6th position. Wow, that, I mean, and Van Beek moves out of the way for Van Buren, and that's good sportsmanship from Van Beek. He didn't have to let him back through, but that was from the incident earlier. He lets the 296 Ferrari driver back through into place. So Danny moves up to 6th place, Van Buren moves up to 7th, and Van Beek graciously accepts 8th place after that. So you've got a 4-car fight for the top 6 now. I don't think Danny Felix has ever finished in the top 6 in this championship. Memory serves me correct. He's definitely been comfortably in the top 6 before. top 10 before, I should say. Because I've been commentating on this championship for quite some time now. Since the tail end, effectively, of season 8. As Van Beek runs wide. Oh, my apologies. Danny did finish in 5th place at the Nordschleife back in season 10. That's the only top 5 he's ever had. So, can Danny get another result like that? Can he find another place to improve upon? You know, why not? He's running in 6th place. He's 3 seconds away from Davies Altenbayer, who's putting in a good shift. Bence Biro's having a solid drive as well. But the top 3 have just squeezed back up together. We're gonna get on board with Danny Altenbayer. Let's go and find him via the race director. There's Jordan, there's Rover, there's Dan Hatton, who is the barbecue reddened sandwich. And we ride on board with Zoutenbayer then into the final corner at turn 10. And would you believe, ladies and gentlemen, we're not even a third of the race through yet, but this at the front is looking like a big fight. 29 flat from the front 2, a 29.5 from Zoutenbayer there, and a 29 flat from Rover Rakatamanga, who just because of that start is not close enough to try and fight these 3 at the front. It's going to have to come from something special tactically for the Frenchman to close up this group. And Howard Dunn just saying Harding in a flow state. He is at the minute. But at the minute we're looking at it, you know, we've got 3 drivers in the top 4. Oh, was Danny just lit the rear tyres up. He knows he's got an opportunity here. Is that Van Beek round at the, I think it was at turn 4. I'll have to cue that one up in a minute. Yeah, there is Van Beek actually. So we'll wait for him to cross the line. We'll have a look at that in terms of what's happened there. But I was just saying about Danny Zoutenbayer. He knows he's got a great chance of a race win here because he hasn't had one this season. You know, that's the thing for Danny. He's not had a race win this season. Rover Rakatamanga has never had a race win in ACC Race Nation, nor has Jordan, who's leading the race. Dan Hatton, up until this championship, until season 12, he'd never had one either. Oh, but he runs very wide at turn 1, and that'll give Harding just that little bit of breathing space. But since Hatton started winning races in this championship, he's looked so much more composed compared to the driver that we saw in season 11. You know, he was bouncing up and down the field in season 11. Admittedly he was driving in a different car. At that point was Dan, but there has certainly been a maturity in his driving since he got that podium at the penultimate round of the season, when he got those 2 podiums back to back when he was driving the McLaren. There's certainly been a maturity in his driving. There's a confidence that's changed, and it's flowed into this season. He's been absolutely phenomenal. He's done, out of the 8 possible races, well, 7 possible races so far, this is the 8th one currently, you know, out of the 5 he's done, he's won 4 of them, which just demonstrates a level of consistency that you get when you start achieving those positive results. Now, on the flip side of that, a lot of you will be watching back at home thinking, well, okay, Jordan, he's never won a race in ACC Race Nation. Will he be feeling the jitters? Will he be worried? Will he start to make mistakes? Jordan Harding, ladies and gentlemen, is one of the drivers who normal common concepts do not apply to. He has pretty much one state of mode when he races, and that's full position. Doesn't matter if it's the race lead, doesn't matter if it's for 15th or 7th, he will defend what he has. So I would be surprised if he was feeling any nerves at this point in the race. I feel Danny Zoutenbayer is getting a bit of itchy feet, which is why he's dropped time to these two at the minute. Because Danny will be wanting the first race win, and then he'll settle into that rhythm through the season. It typically does happen. Have we lost Van Beek? Has he retired from the race? Yes, he has. That's a shame. He's gone. Let's have a look at what happened to him a couple of laps ago, though. There we go. So number 3, triple 3. It's the wrong camera angle. We don't want to be looking at his helmet. It's not a sentence I ever want to say on the stream again. So he was fighting he was in the big fight with Davies, Altenbayer and co. He was a little bit further away. He was still in front of Danny Felix. And then he no longer was, and that was after he'd been overtaken by Van Buren. He ran a bit deep at turn 1. The next thing you know, he went round. Did he just go round by himself? At the minute, everything looks okay. Was it on the next lap that he went off? Potentially. Because it was at the turn 4 corner, turn 3 corner where he goes off. Does he get suckered into the braking zone again, I wonder? Oh, no, he's a little bit unstable already as he goes into turn 3. Has a little correction mid-corner. Oh! Oh, that's a bizarre incident, I'm going to say. So let's just pause it there. Let's get onto a external camera so that we can just see what... So Danny Felix looks like he loses the back end of the car. Yeah, he runs wide, slides through the corner, gets back on. That is the lightest of contacts, and that's turned Van Beek round. I feel sorry for him because that's a little bit of a mystery, that one, to be fair. And I want to just double check what happened with Felix. So runs deep into the corner, misses his braking zone by a country mile, slides the car around, has a little tap, and that's what you would have expected to have happened to Van Beek, but unfortunately sent him completely off the track. So massive shame for Van Beek, but we have sadly lost him from the race. So we go down to 16 drivers. 2 drivers have pitted, one of whom we were just following on the replay there. So Danny Felix has pitted and Mikey was the first to pit earlier on. Jamie Lee's done a good job since joining basically at the end of qualifying. I don't know if he's had any practice at all, but he's now on the tail end of Liam Watkinson, who's having a great race in 11th position. Let's see if we can get to Lee, actually. We can go on board. Well, we can go on board with Liam. Ooh, and that was the worst time to have gone on board with Liam. And that's not even commentator's curse. You can't even fault myself for that. We went on board with him at turn 1 and he spun round. And I was hoping for a good battle between himself and Jamie Lee, but Jamie Lee will have clicked his fingers, said thank you very much, and off he goes. So Jamie Lee moves up into 11th place, following on from Liam Watkinson's spin. But no damage for Liam, which is the key thing. He can crack on. Ross Harris running in 9th place. Mark Laszlo now into the pits, who's had a pogo performance today. 28.9 from Dan Hatton and 29.4 from Zoutenbayer and Rakatamanga. But we are in the part of the race now where the tactics will start to come into drivers' minds. They will be thinking about it, none more so than these two. They've got the gap up to 2.5 seconds between themselves and Danny Zoutenbayer, who must be thinking about the undercut at this point. And the other element of this circuit as well is, will anybody decide to change tyres? Because whilst most of this lap is quite... I was going to say quite less punishing, but that wouldn't be grammatically correct. Well, it is a lot less punishing than most racetracks. The heavy braking zones can do quite a lot, and the braking zones themselves can cause brake fires, which we have seen in this championship before when we last raced at the Red Bull Ring. So that's going to be a part of it. I think some drivers, they might think about a tyre swap, because the middle sector has a lot of long flowing corners. These last two corners can be quite punishing on the front left and the rear left tyre. Might be something for the drivers to factor in, but with 33 minutes and 11 seconds remaining, none of the front three have elected to make a pit stop. 28.9 from Harding, 29 flat from those behind, and Rover Rakatamanga did a 29.4. So the Frenchman, unfortunately, after getting stuck behind Mark Laszlo at the start, I don't think he's going to be able to latch himself on unless something were to occur ahead, and that is as vague as I'm going to make it. Because we don't want to cause any curse commentary this evening. It's the last thing I want to do. And that's a drive through for Jamie Lee for speeding in the pit lane. So that's going to add a lot of time to his overall race time. So he's 14th at the minute. Where is Mark Laszlo? Mark Laszlo is trundling around. I think, sadly, Mark's got some form of technical problem. I'm not sure what's happened to Mark Laszlo, but unfortunately, his race looks like it's capitulating here, and that is a great shame, because he was literally driving so well and was fighting for 4th place at the start of the race, you know. So that is a shame for Mark. Looks like he's going to get overtaken by Mikey then, who's approaching at speed. Oh, that was a bit too much speed for Mikey. And that's an important part of the race. Dan Hatton is in the pits. So the championship leader-elect is in the pit lane. Into the pits he goes. He makes his pit stop. Now, Rakatamanga blasts on through. The crucial thing for Dan now is, where does he come out? Will he come out? I imagine he's going to come out behind all of these drivers. I think he's going to come out into some clear air. So that means that Jordan Harding now will be dropping the hammer to see if he can pull away from, one, Danny Zoutenbayer, and two, whether he can keep his lap times up. And how will he now get on without anyone behind him? Harding is not typically a driver who will defend unless he absolutely has to. It didn't look like he was defending much through the course of that battle with Hatton, who was just dropped down to 10th place. I think he might come out behind Liam Watkinson if he's not careful. Oh, he had a little wobble on the exit of the pit lane. He's going to come out in front of Liam Watkinson. So that's important, because Liam's driving quite competitively this evening. And Liam Watkinson will see 11th, 10th place in front of him and think, oh, I might have a cameo in the top 5 later if he stays out. But Harding carries on. Keaton gets right out of the way as he gets lapped. Will he... Yeah, as I was saying, I was wondering whether Mikey will give the same courtesy to Danny Zoutenbayer, because I know Mikey will never race unfairly, but of course Mikey and Jordan are very good friends, hang out with one another at race events in the British touring cars, as do I, for that matter. Makes me sound like I'm really lonely the way that I've said that then, but I'm not. But you know, they are very good friends, so I know that Mikey will give an absolute luxury to his mates when he tries to get out of the way, which is fair, which is absolutely fair. But how will they navigate? Now, Rakatamanga and Bent Biro are in the pits, and Laszlo's got his car back to the pits, which is good news. So hopefully he can sort out whatever gear selection issues he is having. Dan Hatton has blasted out into turn 1, so what I'm trying to deduce now is the gap between Rakatamanga and Dan Hatton. Liam Watkinson's gone into the pit, so he's not going to have his top 5 cameo. So Hatton is there at turn number 3. And what is Rakatamanga's time? Oh, we've lost somebody. Oh no, we've lost Rakatamanga. And that is really frustrating because, one, we've lost the Frenchman who was doing so well, and number two, which is more important, is I was trying to figure out how much time Dan Hatton potentially had gained on Rover Rakatamanga, because that would have helped me understand where he was in relation to Jordan Harden. Now I can't figure that out for you. Or is he back? It looks like he's in. He's back in, but he's in the pits. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Danny Zoutenbayer is in the pits as well, whilst that was going on. So that puts Jordan Harden now 17 seconds clear of everybody behind him. But we wait and see when Harden decides to pit. And Harden won't be thinking about pitting with everybody else. He won't be thinking about an overcut. He will be sticking to his strategy that he came up with before the race and how the car feels. That's how he drives. That's what he'll be thinking. He won't be having anything else going on. He won't be worried about... probably be happier that Zoutenbayer and Hatton aren't in his timing tower at the minute. That's what he'll be pleased with. But Danny Zoutenbayer's come out roughly the same place as he was behind Hatton earlier. So the undercut that Hatton did hasn't produced the gains that I would have expected. But I do still not know whether these two have changed tyres or not. That's what we're unaware of. Danny Felix very close to the back of Bent's Biro there. Let's have a little look at that. Bent's having a really solid race at the moment. That's Matt Phillips in the pit. Matt Phillips was running in the top 5, by the way. What a great little cameo that was for him. So there's Danny in 9th position, about half a second away from Bent's. Race leader still continuing on circuit, circulating. Keaton goes a bit wide there at turn number 6. And then does some lawnmowering at turn 7. But Mikey is going to go a lap down compared to these guys, so he will have to move out of the way. And there you go, sharply moves out of the way. No dramas whatsoever from the Lamborghini Huracan driver. And Jordan Harden's in the pits. Race leader is in the pits. This is it. This is the moment that we have been waiting for a long, long time. All 3 drivers of the leading trio have been in for a pit stop. Harden currently being serviced by his crew, which puts Davy Zoutenbayer into the lead of the race. Jeffrey Van Buren is in 2nd, and Dennis Penders is in the pits as well. Where's Dan Hatton? He's coming round turn 8 now. He'll know that Harden's in the pits. He'll see that. He'll be pushing. And he's really pushed, actually, on this most recent lap. He's absolutely fired away from Danny Zoutenbayer. Where is Harden? He's just been let go by the crew. Hatton's coming across the start-finish line now. I think Hatton's going to get in front. Into turn 1 they go, and Hatton is going to have the race lead, I think. Where is Danny Zoutenbayer? He's going to come out just behind, I think. It's going to be a drag race towards turn number 3. You feel that for Zoutenbayer, this is his big chance to get past. If he doesn't do it here, he's not going to get past him, I don't think. And he can't find a way past. And Harding emerges in 4th position on the road. So Dan Hatton has got the race lead back that he briefly had at turn 1. Ooh, that was an interesting line from Harding going into turn number 4. Swung right out of the circuit of the road. Zoutenbayer will be thinking, if I was Danny Zoutenbayer in this point in time, I'd be thinking strategically and going, okay, we know how quick Jordan is, we know how he can drive, let's use him to close up to the back of Hatton if he's got the pace in him to do it. But what a stint from Dan. Dan Hatton then has got the race lead. For the first time, he leads. Well, I say he's got the race lead. He's got the race lead battle. He's just on a 28.9 on that lap. Zoutenbayer's just on a 29.4. Harding's lap time isn't representative at the minute. Van Buren now in the pit. So the only driver in the race who's yet to make a pit stop will be our race leader in the form of Davy Zoutenbayer, who's doing it once again. He's showing everybody how to do a stint however the way you want to do it. Hope you're doing alright, Jacob. Shame you're not here today. I think this would have been a good race for you, to be honest with you, as our race leader, Davy Zoutenbayer, comes into the pit lane. So he's had his time at the front. But this will be in response to Jeffrey Van Buren, who wasn't far away from him earlier on. So Van Buren will be putting his foot down now. Rover Rakatamanga has sadly left the session. So we've lost Rakatamanga. I feel like we've lost somebody else. I know we lost Van Beek. Actually, Van Beek is the driver. Yeah, that was what was throwing me out. Rover Rakatamanga had left, rejoined, and then left again. So that's why I've got just momentarily a little lapse. And yes, Mark Laszlo saying that his steering wheel hasn't been shifting up or down. That's what's... it's just not registering in the game, which is a great shame to have lost him. He was doing so well. And Rover Rakatamanga saying he's been disconnected and he doesn't know why. So, two people struggling today with issues through no real fault of their own. But Dan Hatton will now lead for the first time in this race. He will get to lead a lap now. And Harding already starting to break the gap between himself and Zoutenbayer. So that's what he's done. And Davy Zoutenbayer has come out in 4th place. And what did I say at the start of the qualifying, everybody? Davy Zoutenbayer pops up at points in the season with really good drives. And this is another one. He's running in 4th place. This will be a result that will move him comfortably into the top 10 in the drivers' standings. That is exactly what he wanted. He's about 2.6 clear of Van Buren at the last sector. But Van Buren was closing that gap down earlier. So we'll see if he can do that during the course of the second stint. There is a Joe Warner between the two. Bence Biro is still in front of Danny Felix. And Bence on his way to record the best result of his ACC Race Nation career, tied with what he did at Monza, so 6th place, but Danny Felix is having a good battle with him at the minute. And Matt Phillips is close to what is a brilliant recovery drive from Dennis Penders. How far away is Penders from Biro and Felix? That's what I'd like to know. That's 8 seconds. I'm just going to have a little look at the timing. So Felix is in 7th. And on his lap times, he's been doing some pretty good lap times, actually. 29 on the last few laps. So really strong from the McLaren driver. So 29s. If we just have a little look at what Penders has been doing. He was in the... and he's in the 29s as well. So that might... we'll have to wait and see. If Biro and Felix fight, which I have a feeling they will... then we might see that gap come down, but it's going to require a little bit of intervention. Oh, Biro has a snap of oversteer at turn 3, just as we talk about it. The Hungarian moves to the right-hand side of the road. We're on board with Danny Felix in the 720S. Driver's eye perspective, you could see the Ferrari nudging in front, but I think he's run a bit deep for the corner. Felix tries to do the undercut. It's going to be close for turn 5, but I don't think he's going to be brave enough or stupid enough to go around the outside at turn 6. So can he look to do the undercut? Not quite. He tried to get on the power early, and what happened was the car unsettled mid-corner. And, oh, he's had another unsettle. He's going to go through the gravel trap, and that might just be the end of that battle between Felix and Biro. But Penders will have closed the gap down. And this is still a really good, strong drive from Felix. Definitely looking like a second top 10 result of the season. He just needs to maintain it. And Joe Warner's had a good drive today. Quietly gone about his business this evening in the Mercedes. Less than 18 minutes to go now. I think he's done a solid job today. Really nice drive from him. He's still getting. I still think he's trying to get his head around that Mercedes. I know that he's been doing some rallycross recently. I think he's done a really nice drive. Meanwhile, one of the closest fights on circuit is between Harding and Zoutenbayer. That gap that I thought had been snapped earlier, the powers of recovery being shown by Zoutenbayer to not give this up. Hatton's moved into the 28s. Jordan does a 29.3, so 4 tenths lost to the race leader. And Harding, unless Hatton has some form of drama ahead, is looking like he's going to equal his best result ever in ACC Race Nation. Mikey doing a good job in 14th place. Had a couple of moments where he's gone off the road, but he's not exactly driven terribly. He's done a solid job and he's learning still as he goes along. He has nosed the barrier somewhere on this track. I'm not quite certain where Mikey has gone off the road. Yeah, it is a stonking lap time from Dan Hatton. You're right, Howard. What he's done there to put himself into the race lead with the undercut. I mean, Danny Zoutenbayer's best time's 28.6. To be fair, as is Hatton's, but he's just in that state of mind at the minute. He's got so much confidence that trying to beat him is proving to be difficult. Zoutenbayer and Harding together on track. Looks like a bit of a better lap time this from these two. 28.6 from Hatton, a 28.7 from Harding, 28.6 from Zoutenbayer. They're all lapping at the same speed, but Hatton just got there first. And that's giving him this 4 and a bit second lead. He is coming up to traffic in the form of Watkinson and Keating though. He will have to navigate that. And Van Buren isn't far away from Davies Zoutenbayer either. Let's just go on board with Hatton. He's got past Mikey, who's moved out of the way. Liam Watkinson on for comfortably his best drive of the season, definitely his best result. I think he had a 17th place. I think is his best result of the season. He would have beat that anyway with the drivers tonight, but I think this has been his best drive for a long time actually. I think he's really driven an absolutely solid race, and again evidence of, I do say this quite often, but I say this to everyone who's watching, that sometimes for drivers it's not just necessarily about winning races all of the time. Sometimes it is about improving. You know, some people can't just jump in straight away and win races. They have to work at it. They have to improve. And I know for Liam, he made that switch from the McLaren to the Porsche this season. It is a completely different type of car to drive, and it's really showing today that his ability to adapt, it's starting to come to him halfway through the season. Let's hope that next week at Misano he can carry on this form. Should be another decent track for the Porsche in Misano actually. After that we've got one more race before another season breaker. We'll be heading off to Silverstone for the 2 hours around there. Of course, double point. Whoa, as Zoutenbayer drifts out of turn 4. But as I was saying, Silverstone, one of the 3 2-hour races we have this season. Double points on offer as well, so this can still shake up the entire championship. Last 2-hour race we had, don't forget, in the last 15 minutes we had 3 different race leaders. So it can all change in a matter of that. It is certainly not over. And I said before that things can change very quickly. Well, I think that Dan Hatton has lost a little bit of time on that lap to Harding and Zoutenbayer. That gap's now back under 4 seconds again. And the blue flags will be going for Liam Watkinson, and it's a question of whether he will move out of the way. Yes. Gets right out of the way. And do you know what? Actually provided just a little bit of a sneaky toe for Jordan there, which gave him a little advantage up to the braking zone. So, and Jordan on the last lap set the fastest lap of the race. Or rather, his best lap is the fastest lap of the race, I should say. So, and he's pulling Zoutenbayer with him. That gap now, 3 seconds. I think Zoutenbayer's just going to track Jordan all the way. This is fascinating, this race. This could go anywhere. And Dennis Penders, I mentioned it before he could catch up to Danny Felix. He's done just that. He's 1.4 away now from the 985. And he's only 3 and a bit seconds from Bence Biro. Don't rule the Belgian out of getting a 6th place finish here. That is more than achievable. New best lap from him on the last lap, a 28.8. You compare that to Biro, who did a 30.3. Wow. Now that certainly is a game changer. Van Buren is just sitting in the wisps of the wind being parted by Davy Zoutenbayer's Nissan GTR. Has been there for a while. And Watkinson still running in 11th place. Matt Phillips has had a good drive today as well. He's done a good job. His qualifying was actually really, really impressive, the Canadian. Looks like he's going to get his first top 10 ever in ACC Race Nation, and that's fully deserved. His qualifying deserved it alone. But he's had a really good race, and he's doing Canada proud. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think, over the years, the Canadians, in terms of iconic race drivers, we could talk about Lance Stroll, but I think for some people they'd probably say no. But they do have James Hinchcliffe, they do have Scott Goodyear, of course the Villeneuves, and now now we've got Mr. Phillips, Mr. Matt Phillips. That's what the next up and coming Canadian superstar here with ACC Race Nation in the top 10. I think he's enjoying himself, and he's kind of on his own now. But I think for some drivers this is an important time for them. Sometimes you can have really great races where, as he has a snap of overstay on exit turn 4, you can have races where you're battling with loads of people and it's fantastic, but you arguably learn more when you're on your own after having a frenetic start. I think that's what he's learning at the minute, and hopefully he can build on this again through the season. And Ross Harris, another one, can he build on this result? I know Ross hasn't been in many races this season. I think this is his 4th event actually, but hopefully for him this will comfortably be his best result of the championship. But can he come back over the next few weeks, and can he keep improving? Can he keep developing? He's another driver who's switched cars. He was synonymous with the Huracan for quite a long time. Oh, I think Matt Phillips has had a spin just as I was praising him. Oh, I'm very sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to give you the commentator's curse. Let's have a little look at that. I do know that the gap between Jordan and Dan Hatton's come down. That's 2 seconds now. Let's just have a little look, though, at what happened to Matt Phillips in the 73. It must have been at the final corner. I do apologise that for anybody who has any form of visual difficulty, the next few seconds are going to be a little bit rough. There we go, round the final corner we go. Goes over the curb. Oh. Oh, and he knows that he hits the wall quite hard. That is not what he wants. Ah, that's a shame because he was doing so well. So let's have a look then. He comes into the next corner at turn 9. Into turn 10. Car has a little slide. Oh, and it just goes away from him. And that's it. Well, I did say before, you know, you learn at your most when you're driving on your own, and he's certainly learned there not to do that again. Dan Hatton's gap's come down, ladies and gentlemen. That gap's now 1.3 seconds. The race lead is on here. Now, has Hatton just had a couple of mistakes, or, because he's slower again on this lap, are his brakes starting to fade? Because that is a big problem around here. If you don't open up the brake vents enough, you can overheat it. And look, that's a 29.3. It's 29 flat from that. It's not exactly slow, don't get me wrong, but it is half a second or so off what he's been doing so far. Is he just looking after the tyres? Is he just looking after the car? 6.5 minutes to go. Jeffrey Van Buren's got that gap down as well. Joe Warner is having a great fight with Jamie Lee. Joe Warner's in a fight. This is great. This is just what we want to see. Matt Phillips has managed to stay in front of Ross Harris despite absolutely walloping the barrier at turn 10. He's actually looks like he's extended his gap to Ross Harris. Has Ross gone off as well? Has Ross hit the wall? That's the only thing I could put it down to, because I was convinced that Harris would have gone through for 9th place, but because he just had a little bit of a confidence loss. I don't know. Very bizarre. But back at the front, less than 6 minutes to go. Looking at the lap time, Hatton's losing time through the middle sector. Now, is it less? Oh, he had a big wobble then, mid through the corner. And I think, yeah, Dunn's literally just took the words out of my mouth. Howard, you've said exactly what I was saying. I wonder if Hatton's tyres are going away from him. I'm not sure any of these free pitted for tyres, to be honest with you. But I am wondering whether the Mustang's weight, don't forget, you know, Dan Hatton is carrying 30 kilos of ballast following on from his race win last week. Are his tyres just starting to fall away in these last few minutes? He's got the right car to defend from Harding, don't get me wrong. But one little mistake, and that NSX will go through. They've both pulled a margin over Danny Zoutenbayer, who will be sitting there, I think, for the rest of this race, unless something happens. Let's get on board. Let's get on board with Van Buren. Ooh, that was... Mikey did a good job there, actually, to get out of the way. It looked a bit more awkward for him to get out of the way than I realised. Dennis Pender's got past Danny Felix. He's now 1.4 off Bentz, who we were just following then. Can we have the car that we're after? Oh, no. There we go. That's the car we're after. Wide from Hatton. Not exactly brilliant from Harding either at turn 9. You can see Harding's pushing. They're all pushing, but they're all starting to make mistakes. 29 threes from the pair of them. Zoutenbayer the fastest of the bunch. I think they both realise that this... Oh, was Harding has a huge snap mid-corner at turn 1. He knows how important... It's that first win. That's what he's going for now. He's in a different position. I feel if he was defending for the race victory, I don't think Jordan would be sliding the car as much. I think he'd be probably in a better position, realistically. But he has got the gap under a second. And that is, psychologically, that'll be burning in Hatton's brain. Doesn't matter how many times you've won races. Last few laps, the car behind you is closing the gap up. That burns a little pocket in your mind. Psychologically, that's not over 1 second anymore. That's under 1 second, and you can see that. Nice tight line over the curb from the pair of them, even tighter from Harding, I should say. Oh, that was a little bit wide from Hatton. That's a mistake. Here comes Harding. He's going to go to the inside line at turn 9. Can he get there into the corner? He brakes a little bit later. Hatton can't find a way through. And Jordan Harding takes the lead with 2.5 minutes to go. What a move. How brave was that? Dan Hatton makes the mistake at turn 7. And that was, what did I say, 2 laps ago? That's the mistake. One mistake and Harding will be through, and he's there now. And look at Hatton. Here we go. This is it. Gloves are off now, everyone. Hatton, if he gets an opportunity, he will send that Mustang down the inside. There's a yellow flag in front of us, though. He can't make the move. What an awful time to get a yellow flag. Not for Harding, but definitely for Hatton. Goodness me. And this is the first time I've really been truly aware of how ferocious that Mustang sounds. We are in, don't forget, we are in the amphitheatre. We are in a sound valley. As I said at the top. Hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. 90 seconds on the clock. We're going to have this lap and the next. Danny Zoutenbayer haunts the back of these two, waiting for something to happen. Into turns 7 and 8 we go. Over the curbs. A little bit wide from Hatton. This has still been an unbelievable performance from the Mustang man. He will take the lead of the championship, but I think he'll want to take the lead of the championship with a race win. This is it. Final lap of the race. Dan Hatton's race engineer telling him to give it all he can. And he absolutely is. Over the curb he goes at turn 1. He might just be a little bit too far away. We've got Matt Phillips in front of us. He's 3 seconds up the road. Will he come into position and be a factor in this? Down through the gears they go. Hatton closes the gap up under the brakes. Through turn 3. Fires it out of the corner. But it's a good enough exit for Harding to not have to worry about turn 4. Here we go into Roush Corner for the final time on the 39th lap of the race. Phillips is getting closer. That'll be playing on Jordan's mind about how close that McLaren is on for his first top 10 in the series. That's a little bit wide from Harding, but that's a good switch back through the corner. Meets the later apex, not the early one. Hatton is trying to fill the mirrors. He's on the grass. I think that's going to put him wide. It's been a long time coming, but this day has finally made it. Jordan Harding is a winner in ACC Race Nation. Dan Hatton takes an unbelievable second place as Danny Zoutenbayer's third. And I've got to stop for a minute because that is a huge result. What a performance. On a day no one expected it. On a day when he didn't expect it. He has pulled off the first, I believe, the first win in ACC Race Nation with a Honda. And he'll be absolutely going berserk. Davy Zoutenbayer is 4th. Jeffrey Van Buren in 5th. Great result for Davy, by the way, in 4th place. Bence Biro take a bow for 6th place. His best result in the championship. Dennis Penders is 7th. Danny Felix, the best result he's had in 2 seasons, for 8th place. Great drive. Ross Harris, nice return to form from the McLaren man. He's going to get 9th position in the end. And well done to Matt Phillips, who, despite spinning off at the final corner, is going to secure 10th place and his first top 10 in the championship. What a drive from him. Let's go through those provisional race results. But after a 60-minute scrap-a-thon, Jordan Harding has taken his first victory in ACC Race Nation. What a performance. The comments are going wild. Howard Dunn is delighted. I think a lot of people will be. That will be a popular victory, that, for Jordan. Dan Hatton is 2nd. Danny Zoutenbayer is 3rd. Davy Zoutenbayer, great drive from him for 4th. Fended off Van Buren in the end. He finished 5th. Bence Biro, Dennis Penders. A great recovery drive from Dennis Penders, let's not forget. 7th position for him. Danny Felix in 8th with another wonderful drive in today. It's the day of wonderful drives. Ross Harris is 9th with Matt Phillips in 10th. Liam Watkinson with his best ever drive in ACC Race Nation in 11th. Jamie Lee did a great job considering he joined about 4 milliseconds before the race got underway. Joe Warner, again, another fantastic performance today from Joe. Really good drive for him to get 13th. Mikey was 14th, a couple of trips round, but again, I think Mikey will be happy. I think that might be Mikey's best result of the season, if memory serves me correctly. Yes, it is. So well done to Mikey for 14th. We sadly lost Rover Rakatamanga for some technical problems. That was a great shame. I felt like he could have been involved in the action at the front. Mark Laszlo, we were robbed of a really good performance from him. His best of the season so far. Running in the top 4, but sadly for him it weren't to be, as Mikey blasted to the pit lane. We lost Joel Van Beek earlier on. Not quite sure what happened with Joel in the end, but he, in the 333, has to be the last car to be classified as a retirement. Lots of celebrations in the comments from everybody celebrating over a Harding victory. Everybody delighted with that. But that is a great result to have mid-season. We had so many fights up and down the field, and I alluded to it at the start. The Red Bull Ring is one of those race circuits to go to have lots of action, and boy did we have that tonight. Next week I will be back, you'll be delighted to know, commentating on round 9 and round 10, of course, for the championship at Misano. We'll be heading off there on the 15th of April. That's next Wednesday. So that'll be fun to see. We do have a new championship leader, or the return of a championship leader, in the form of Dan Hatton. So he will leapfrog Stuart Packham and Will Fielding. Following on from his race win today, Jordan Harding will be 3rd in the drivers' standings, which we've not seen him up there in a long time. So that's a boon to go along with his race victory this evening. But I've been Jack Millington, commentating for ACC Race Nation Season 12, the GT3 Challenge Series. Thank you very much for watching. It's been great to have you all with us again this evening, where we might be in the big wide world. Have a good one, and we'll see you next week at Misano.